I mean, you didn't have the memo to remind you of the memo?
Going up there. I see how it is. My lap's better than yours.
Kate is having a good time, eh?
Lots of friends in this room, eh? Where's Holly? At work?
Okay, I think we'll get started. First of all, thanks everyone for coming out today. I'm really excited to see a full house. This is great. It's all I could imagine and more. So I'm really excited. Today is probably the best day writing-wise in my life. I'm pretty happy about this today. So I'm excited that all of you are here to share it with me. I've been writing since the age of 7. That's when I decided that's where I wanted to be when I grew up. I was 7 years old. So I've pretty much been writing non-stop since then. So this is my first time publishing, and I did it all on my own. I published under my own brand name, so Brand New Content is actually my business name, and so that's the publisher as well. And then I published through Kindle, so I have ebooks and also CreateSpace, so it's soft covers as well. So I did a lot of the groundwork and everything myself. My website I built myself through teaching myself through a book actually. I just picked up a book on WordPress and then started learning how to build the website. So I had some help from graphic designers and formatters and things to get the books just right for publication, but other than that I pretty much did the groundwork myself. So I'll do a speech, which I always like doing speeches. So I'll do a speech first, and then I'll get into the books. And my son Colson here is going to help me talk about Fiddle and Dee because that's the book we wrote that series together. So he's going to help me talk about that a little bit later. So we'll get started. If you have to leave at any time to use the washrooms just around the corner here. Or if kids need to leave, go in and out, or whatever. If you need to smoke, because I know there's some smokers, just go feel free. So, okay.
And if they need smoky, they can go too.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't write for fame, fortune, or accolades. I write because it's a hunger that must be fed and a thirst that must be quenched. I don't particularly enjoy the spotlight, but I now know that I've earned it because I spent far too much time in the shadows and the sidelines of my own life. Sometimes I feel like calling myself a writer isn't the right term. I'm a receiver. The words find me. They seek me out, and as I put pen to paper or hands to keyboard, the words just write me. I sometimes feel like I don't even write my poems. They just come to me. It's like they are in my mind. I think about them for a few days, and then I write them. And sometimes I don't edit them. Sometimes I do. So this is what the words do. They whisper to me, they tell me my story, and they beg me to be brave enough to tell it. So today, this is my time to be brave. This is my time to be brave for my family, for others, and for my stories so that they can have a life. I used to think other people had the stories and the ability to change the world, that it was something I couldn't do because I'm too quiet. What I realized, though, was that anyone that has a story inside them should tell it, and that especially our Mohawk and Aboriginal stories deserve a life. They deserve to be out there against the mainstream media saying this is us, this is the real us, this isn't our stereotypical us, like this is truly us. So I believe that they need to have a voice, and if that can be me, then I'm honored. I'm absolutely honored that it's me. And then, so I used to think that I was too quiet, and then I had a mind shift, and I thought, why not me? Why can't I do this? So then the can't became that I can, I must, and I will. And even whispers have echoes if only people will listen. So here's me whispering bravely to the world, and anyone who will hear my stories, anyone who needs to hear them or wants to hear them in certain ways can do that. And I used to think that one voice wasn't enough to change things, but it is. One voice, people have proved time and time again that one voice can be all it takes to change the world. If you think of great leaders like Nelson Mandela, you think of writers that have come before me and others, then you can see that they've changed the world little bits at a time. So I don't write anything that isn't true to me. I don't hold back in my writing. Everything is honest, real. I've experienced it, I felt it, I've reflected upon it, and I wouldn't feed you something that I haven't already eaten myself. So this has all been digested and thought about because I started writing my poetry at the age of 14, and this whole book here has been written over a span of 14 years. so half my life so far. So this is big for me to release this because this is really like my journal. It's like something I would write to help myself feel better. It's something I would write to just understand my own world and the world around me. So that's what I've done. And the biggest shift for me was just knowing that I'm worth it and I'm enough. So this shift had happened to me just only recently where I thought, I can do this, I can publish this book, and I can talk about it. And so this poem, this poetry collection, and my other books are talking about how I got to yes, how I said yes to myself, and how I began to do all this. So we'll get started. Okay, so I think I'll start off actually with Fiddle and Dee, so people can help me and then have a little rest. Sitting in this chair after. So you want to start with Fiddle and Dee? Okay. Yeah, Wilson. Wilson is like co-author of the books. So Fiddle and Dee, how they started was we would lay down in his bed before bedtime and I would read him stories and he started saying, can you just tell me a story? And so I said, okay, I'll tell you a story. So that's how Fiddle and Dee came up. They're two brother bunnies and they just came to me like that and I just started running with them. Like I would just make up stories on the spot for him. So it would usually be something about his day or something he was having difficulty with at the time. So the first one that I'm going to talk about today is called Fiddle and Dee and the Bedtime Band. I said, why do you have trouble sleeping at night, sweetie? Like, what's wrong? He said, I hear noises at night and I'm not sure, like they scare me a little bit, but I'm not sure what they are. And so we wrote this book together and I tried to keep the book almost exactly as how we said it to each other. So I would ask him questions and he would respond, or he would ask me questions and I would respond, and that would build the story gradually. So there's 14 that I've written down and we continue to write them like every night. He's like, I want to hear Fiddle and Dee, so we just make them up. So this is the first one that we worked on together. Do you want to see anything about it? No? You want to show them the pictures? Okay. There you go. Okay. And so this is the cover art, and all the illustrations were done by the fabulous Melody Green. She worked really hard on all the images. I just basically gave her the stories and said, run with them, do whatever you want, like make Fiddle and Dee however you imagine them when you're reading it. And all I can say is she took Fiddle and Dee to the edge of their forest and back. Like, it's incredible what she did with them. So kudos to you, a really good job on these. So this is the cover that they said, and then you'll just swipe through, and I'll actually read it to you because it's fairly short. Fiddle and Dee had a beautiful home. They loved living in the forest. It was a place where it wasn't hard to find adventure. Everywhere they looked, there was something exciting to do or see. They let their imaginations run wild. Sometimes, though, their imaginations got them into trouble. While their forest home was beautiful during the day, Fiddle and Dee had trouble getting to sleep at night. During the day, the noises of the forest called to Fiddle and Dee. They'd hear a noise and be off in the direction of it to see what it might lead them to. Sometimes it would take them to a nearby pond to discover Frog and other friends. Other times it would lead them down a path towards a cabin in the woods. The sights and sounds of the forest always brought adventure for the two bunnies. At night, the noises of the forest were frightening to Fiddle and Dee. They lay awake and wondered each time they heard a noise if it was a monster or a strange forest creature about to sneak up on them. When you live in a big forest and have big imaginations like Fiddle and Dee, the darkness can be a bit scary. The noises you hear can play tricks on you. Fiddle whispered to his brother, Dee, did you hear that? What was that? Dee replied, I don't know, Fiddle. I'm not sure I want to know either, he said, his voice quivering. The two bunnies huddled close together in their hollow log. They spent most of the night awake and listening to the strange forest sounds. When they awoke the next morning, they decided to try to search around the forest to see if they could find out where those sounds might be coming from. They couldn't seem to hear the same sounds during the day as the ones they heard at night. No matter how hard they searched around the forest, they couldn't match anything they saw with the sounds they heard. There weren't any monsters, and there certainly didn't seem to see any strange forest creatures. That evening, just before dinner, Fiddle and Dee decided to play with their friend Squizzy the squirrel. Fiddle asked Squizzy if he could hear the strange noises at night. Squizzy replied, oh, you mean the Bedtime Band? What is the Bedtime Band, Fiddle and Dee asked in unison? The Bedtime Band is the music that plays at night in the forest, Squizzy explained. You know, all the noises that you hear at night? Yes, nodded Fiddle and Dee. Well, if you listen to each noise without wondering what it might be, and just focus on the sound it makes, then it begins to sound like music. Together, all of the sounds are like a band playing each night, exclaimed Squizzy. Wow, said Fiddle. That's nice, said Dee. Fiddle and Dee could hardly wait to go to sleep that night so they could hear the Bedtime Band. They cuddled up together in their hollow log, and instead of letting their imaginations get the better of them, they decided to listen with their long bunny ears. It took a few minutes, but soon they could hear the Bedtime Band playing as they drifted off to sleep. And then, so there's 14 books in the series, like I said, and they're just about different things. Like one's like Fiddle and Dee go to the moon, Fiddle and Dee go to the library, and just different things that we were either talking about or he was learning about. So, yeah, that's the series. So I'll talk a little bit about the other two books too. The poetry collection I'll read a few poems from. The other book is a self-improvement or self-help book called The Unshackled Soul, A Shy Gal's Guide to Self-Confidence. It's basically like my life story, but I also worked in ways that people can deal with shyness. Like there's different chapters on having a dream journal and focusing on your strengths, and there's a different chapter on positive affirmations, things that you can say to yourself each day to improve your confidence level and make yourself feel better about yourself. And then so I've weaved in like stories from my own life, and then I've also just worked in some things that are a lot of self-help authors talk about, and different resources that I've learned either on my own or that I've learned from other places to help myself benefit. So that's basically what the Unshackled Soul is, and it's a quick read, but it's good. I find people find it helpful because it has those practical tips in it as well. So I'll read a couple of poems out of This Is Me Now. I think I'll start with Trapped is a good one to start with. I'll start with that. There is no answer. They don't want to come out today. Moments like these are not so free. They're filled with tiny cells, full of words. I wish to break out. Don't you want to break out? Together we can be free. So Trapped was really funny because Dan was reading. He's like, whoa, that's deep. Where did that come from? And I said, I had writer's block. and literally that's where it came out, but it fits in well with the message of this book, and obviously poetry can have many layers. But I was staring at a blank Word document, very frustrated because I couldn't write anything. And usually poetry just comes to me and I don't force myself to write it, but I was like, I need to write something today. Like I really want to write something, so I just wrote Trapped, and then it ended up being this great poem that we fit in this collection. So. And then another one I'll read is, I Could Be That Indian, so I'll read that one. I could be that Indian that lives in the teepee. I could be that Indian that you see on TV. I could be that Indian stoic and grave. I could be that Indian mascot of the Atlanta Braves. I could be that Indian that you already think I am. I could be that Indian, the one that you want me to be. But I'd rather not. I'd rather be just me. So this was written at a time when I was at Trent University. I was taking Indigenous Studies as my minor and English was my major. And I was in a course where we were viewing different film and different media and looking at the stereotypes that are in them. And so I obviously probably knew all the stereotypes before I even went into Trent because I'd heard everything in the book thrown at me. So I wrote this response is my poem, so I just wrote it. And as I was going through Trent, I found it was like great to learn so much from the other side of our culture as well, like how colonization affected us and how it affected our cultures internally as well. So I also found it was very emotional work. Like it was very academic, but it was very emotional for me because there was so much in there, so much hurt done to our people that I had to go through almost again as I was reading and doing the readings for the course. So my only method to deal with it in a way that I knew was poetry. So a lot of these poems came out of that. And another one I can read is, I should probably read the namesake of the book, This Is Me Now. Hey, this is me now. I'm telling you for the first time, this is me now. I know for the first time, this is me now. I can feel for the first time, this is me now. I see for the first time, this is me now. Where I'm meant to be now. I can be free now. hey, this is me now. I'm thanking you for allowing me to be now who I've always been before, but never really saw how I could say, hey, this is me now. So the poetry is really deep. There's some really personal poems in there, and then there's some poems that I've taken just from experiences I learned. One is called Ask Her, and it's about residential schools. And it's because I was listening to a speaker at Trent describe her experience, and it was very emotional. She cried through the entire presentation. I was at my desk crying, and as were the other students. But it was also great to see how she made it. Like, she survived that experience, and she was out talking to us, and she could talk about it, and she was so strong. Like, you could just see her strength, and her culture was still there. She's practicing speaker. She's like, none of that took what they tried to take from me. Like, they couldn't take anything from me. It hurt, and it still hurts, but look at what I can do. So that's what I think our people need to focus on. We need to focus on rebuilding our sense of nationhood that was stripped from many things. The Indian Act has stripped that, the colonization process has stripped that. So that's the work I'd like to see done, and that's work I really want to work towards as well. So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself too. Some of you haven't seen me since I was young, or haven't really followed along maybe with what I've been doing. So, like I said, I went to Trent University, and that's where I met Dan, and then we were married in 2007. And then I have 2 boys, a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old, Wilson and Hudson. And then I went on to, I was working for Canada Revenue Agency as a student, and I stayed there for 6 years, but I knew I didn't want to stay there in government and in taxes, because that's totally not my thing. But as I was there, I was doing my master's in distance education. So my whole goal with doing distance education was I wanted to create an online language school. And that's still my goal. So if anyone here wants to work with me on that, let's do it. Because I really want to do that. Because I myself want to be fluent, but I can't spend 2 years and come back to the community to do it, but I really do. Because I find like I'm so connected to the language, even though I don't know all of it. I know a few words will just pop in my head every once in a while. And I strongly, strongly believe that I write my poetry in Mohawk first, because it takes me a few days to get it down in English, and Mohawk is such a beautiful language that I know that's how I'm envisioning it. And also, when I write sometimes in English, and this happens at work, and my boss is like, oh, that sentence is backwards. It's because that would be the translation if I was translating it out of Mohawk. But, like, try explaining that. Like, that doesn't work. So, but yeah, I really do want to learn the language, because I think I could write incredible poetry in Mohawk, because I already do, but I just have to put it into English, because that's all I have. So, and then now I work at University of Guelph as a distance learning specialist. So basically, I'm an instructional designer. I meet with faculty and develop all online courses with them. So it's a huge responsibility, a hard, difficult job to do, because I have about 80 courses at any given time. They could be running this semester, or they could be running the next one, but you always have stuff to do along the way to get ready for them, or while they're running, and you have to meet with professors, and you're either developing them from the ground up, or you're working on revisions. So, but it's a really rewarding job. I like the job, and it's great to see them come in with just an idea that this is what I want to teach about, and then you have it built into a course by the time you semester. So it's great. So I think that's everything, and thank you again for coming. And then if you want to just mingle, have some snacks, and you can come up and look at the books a little bit further, and that's it, I think. Purchase, yeah. Oh, if you want to purchase any of the copies that are here today, they're $10. Then I also have a book up here if you'd like to order Fiddle and Dee or the Unshackled Soul. Just write your name and telephone number or email down. I have a shipment coming in to my dad's store, so Kanhiote Computers this week, probably by Wednesday, should have 40 Fiddle and Dees and 40 Unshackled Souls there. So.
Look at you. I haven't seen you yet.